Okay, probably the biggest wrestling match I will do. I'm taking 3 different faces from 3 different wrestling generations. I'm taking Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and John Cena to try to see if a triple threat works in this sort of scenario. As always, I do an 11-point system. Strength, speed, endurance, this is how well do you last in a long match. Toughness, what sort of beating can your body take. Striking, grappling, submissions, high flying, how over are you with the crowd, what is your ring psychology, and your overall mic work. Now, Hogan, this is in the height of his career, so this is probably around the time he joined WCW, roughly in that era. Because that's when he actually brought WCW to the forefront. Before they were always number 2. Hogan shows up slightly more in the twilight of his years, but still enough of a draw to really pack a house. Austin. This is Austin, of course, in the height of the Attitude Era. You know, when he was the absolute man. He was the face of the E. And now we're on to John Cena. John Cena, at the height of his popularity, ironically, is probably now. Love him or hate him, he gets a tremendous crowd reaction. So we're going to go through this. At the height of their careers, strength. Austin was never really a strong wrestler. John Cena is pretty much a power wrestler. However, I really don't think that he had a level of strength that could match somebody like Hogan. Hogan was ridiculously strong. Of course, that being said, John does a lot more feats of strength than Hogan does, especially Hogan in that era. If I were to pick Hogan, you know, Hogan's biggest thing is he slammed Andre the Giant, which is an undeniably impressive feat. Where we've seen John Cena, fireman's carry, not as difficult to do as something like an actual body slam, where you transfer in the full person's weight head over feet, or feet over head. Sorry, he's putting something on his shoulders and then doing the same sort of motion, but it's on his shoulders. I think I would give Cena the strength advantage. Speed. Ironically, this one also goes to Cena. You got 2 guys who are not really fast. At the height of Austin's career, he did have bad knees, bad back, and a bad neck. So he's not super fast. So John Cena actually is the fastest person in this ring. Endurance. Hogan was never really known for his super long match style. Again, very similar with what you see with someone like Austin. Austin didn't have very long matches. However, the matches he had were ridiculously physical. But Cena's had matches that have gone pretty close to an hour. And this one is kind of hard. I would probably say I would give the overall endurance, like how long does it take for you to get tired, probably to Cena. Because at this time, Hogan, still kind of older in his career, Austin, riddled with injuries. So ironically, right now, we're 3 in, and it's straight Cena. Toughness. You know, during the time that Hogan wrestled, it was a very, very different, very physically demanding sort of time. Comparing that with Austin. Austin's era, very brutal matches. And the fact that this is somebody where he was busted open in a match with Bret Hart and passed out. So he was able to take a tremendous physical beating. John Cena doesn't sell anybody's moves, so it's hard to tell exactly how tough he truly is. So then it comes down to which person does a better job at shrugging off the overall damage. Was it Austin, who soul punched everything that he took, John Cena, or is it versus the Hulk Up? And as I have to go with the Hulk Up. Because the moment that, you know, sounds really stupid, the moment that Hogan decides to Hulk Up, he does not sell anything. John Cena will sell the move while it's happening, and then he'll act like nothing even happened. So I actually give this one to Hogan. So right now, we are now 4 in, and it is Austin 0, Hogan 1, Cena 3. So now we're at the physical component. Striking. All 3 of these guys are pretty close, like the 5 moves of doom. You've got punch, kick, big boot, leg drop. You've got punch, kick, Luthez press, stunner. Or you have punch, kick, you can't see me, AA. And out of these guys, probably the most prolific striker out of all of them is going to be Austin. Austin was a brawler. Austin could brawl with the absolute best of them. So now we're at the grappling. Ironically, during the rise of Stone Cold Steve Austin, he lost a lot of his grappling abilities. Hogan could not grapple, period. He had the body slam. That was about as far as he went for grappling. We do see some grappling every now and then from Cena, but if you want to see the true grappling of Austin, watch his matches when he wrestled somebody like an Angle, or a Jericho, or a Benoit. He threw in a lot of suplexes. He did a great job when it came to the overall grappling aspect. So I'm giving this one to Austin. So right now it's 2 for Austin, 1 for Hogan, 3 for Cena. Submissions. If only Austin during his time as Stone Cold would have used the $1 Million Dream, which he had access to because he was the ringmaster before that. He actually had some of these submission styles. He just never used them. The stunner was good enough, so he never needed to use a submission. So that means, again, it's still kind of Cena by default because he has the STF, and he also does the crossface when he realizes he has to actually sink it in. So it's another point for Cena. So now we're at 2 for Austin, 1 for Hogan, 4 for Cena. High flying. Okay, so in this one I actually have to consider the times when the people actually leave their feet. So that means it's John Cena's barely used top rope leg drop versus the second rope elbow that Austin used almost every single match. This is going to have to go to Austin. I say his second rope elbow that he stole from Bret Hart, he used a lot more than you saw Cena go to the top. I'm not going to include the fact that CM Punk helped Cena through a Hurricane Rana. No, I'm just not going to include that. So right now, we're at 3. Are we at 3? No, actually now we're at 4. Nope. Double check. I really should keep track of these things every now and then. It's hard when you're doing 3 different people. So we've got Austin with striking, grappling, and high flying. So it's 3 to 1 to 4. That makes sense. Yes, I'm at number 9 on my list. So it's 3, 1, 4. Now we're at the overall, who was over more with the crowd, who had better ring psychology, and who had better overall mic skills. Out of these 3, when it comes to over with the crowd, it is Hogan. Period. Hogan's transition from WWF to WCW made them all of a sudden a top tier name. He can't do it now, but during his height, he was probably the biggest named wrestler. He still is one of the bigger named wrestlers. So Hogan's got that. So now we're at 3, 2, 4. Ring psychology. John Cena, not really a great master of this. Austin, during his time, did a really good job. He knew how to draw the crowd into a match and knew how to make it work. So from that aspect, I give that one to Austin. We are now 4, 2, 4. Well, at this point in time, Hogan's an afterthought in this match. It is now down to who has better overall mic work skills. So John Cena is it Austin. Austin, during his height, had the crowd eating out of the absolute palm of his hand. When he was a face, he made you love him. When he was a heel, he made you hate him. With John Cena and his mic work, it is vanilla. If John Cena could go back to more of the battle rap sort of scenario where he actually was more aggressive in his promos, he actually does a decent promo. However, now he is Super Cena, he's ultra vanilla. Austin, during his time, knew how to cut a promo. Austin was always very good at the promo, so I give mic work to Austin. So out of this match, with Austin, Hogan, Cena, it is 5 for Austin, 2 for Hogan, and 4 for Cena. And that's the bottom line.